Oh, I need to bring the Wi-Fi router over here. Hmm? I don't have any jewelry on.
I think we're live.
We are live. Do you have any jewelry on? I need to grab the router from over there. So, but we are
Welcome.
live. Welcome, Mabrika. This was not as scheduled live, as you can see, but we saw that there's 4 people waiting.
Well, we didn't schedule it until
Yeah,
like half an hour ago. He started making the thing, and
we noticed that some of y'all were waiting. So, our apologies that you were waiting, but you were here with us. Say hello in the chat.
it was planned in the heavenlies.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. And
While you talk, I'm going to grab the router and bring it
Okay.
closer.
the Lord told us that today we were to open our mouths, and He would put what He wanted us to say in our mouths for us to speak. And so that's what we are asking Him to do. And we're grateful for you guys being here. This is the first time in a while that we've spoken, and it's we have been getting poured into. And so we're grateful for you being here.
So we wanted to share things with you tonight. You know, there's a lot of turmoil, of course, and crazy things. And please, you know, give a like, subscribe, share this video with others, because we want to talk with you about being prepared, about being ready. Uh, Those of you who've been on this journey with us for several years, you know, this is what we have been. I don't know. Focused on blaring from the rooftops. Are we prepared? Are we ready?
So let me just say this. There are people watching, or who will be watching, who will be tempted to skip out of this because it may be triggering for some people. It may be, gives you a feeling of discomfort or squirminess or something. And I just want to challenge you today to stick with us through this teaching, because it may be different than what you usually hear. And we really feel strongly that this is not for preaching to the choir, but for those people who maybe typically wouldn't just even watch this video. And especially, this is for leadership. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be in leadership right now for it to be relevant to you. It could be that you're in leadership over your family and it's relevant to you. It could be that
leadership falls upon you in an emergency situation,
or that the Lord just drew you here. But stick with us through this, and we're hoping it's not going to take a whole lot of time because we want to be succinct. But
So, you know, we've been talking about preparedness for several years now. Since October 7th, even more so of a need to really, we can't stick our heads in the sand about what's going on in the world. If you're studying scripture, if you study eschatology, end time, prophecy, everybody, almost everybody, has a sense that something's going on. Now, we can bury our heads in the sand and act like nothing's going on and nothing's happening, or we can take and apply biblical precepts to our lives now, not out of fear, but out of faith.
So the Lord doesn't really tell us, hey, there are scriptures that talk about, let me back up. There are scriptures that talk about focus on what is good and what's pure and what's righteous and holy. And that means that we are not supposed to be so focused on the negative. At the same time, what that doesn't mean is if there is something negative out there, don't pay attention to it. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain is not what it means.
No.
It means when we dwell and meditate on things, we should be building our spirit with good and positive meditations of our mind and our heart. But we very much need to be aware and cognizant and prayerful and watchful. And we need to know the times that we're in, the seasons, and what's going on, so that we will be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, in and capable of living, number one, without fear, and number two, in the readiness of the season that we were born to be in.
You mentioned being ready at the right season at the right time, and there was actually one of the 12 tribes of the Israelite tribes. One of the tribes that was their sole focus and purpose, and that was the tribe of Issachar. They knew the seasons and the times. If you're not sure what that means, it doesn't just mean that they knew when it was winter and summer and the different equinoxes and so on. The word there in Hebrew in the original language is they knew the seasons, the Moedim. They knew the appointed times. How did they know this? One, they were skilled navigators, so they knew the constellations, they knew the stars, they knew what was written in the heavens, but the things that the Creator put there so that we would know these seasons and these times. And when we have that knowledge and that anointing, which there's been many people who have been really interested in learning about appointed times, about the blood moons, about the new moons, about all these signs and wonders in the heavens. And these are things that we don't need uh, like we don't need. They're not salvation issues. We don't need to have these things, but to know them and have the knowledge of them so that you can deepen your walk is an incredibly powerful thing, especially knowing Creator's timing. Because when you know His timing in things, things will end up a whole lot better for you and your family.
So we're going to talk about some, just to preface things, we'll do a really brief definition of what preparedness or being a prepper is. You'll hear us talk about being a prepper. So the Oxford Dictionary
Oxford.
definition of prepper is a person who believes a catastrophic disaster or emergency is likely to occur in the future and makes active preparations for it, typically by stockpiling food, ammunition, and other supplies. So I can tell you that having worked in multiple emergency rooms in the medical field, one of the things we were all very cognizant of was that nobody wakes up that morning and thinks, I think I'm going to have an accident and end up in the emergency room. Now, I'm not talking about people who have been sick for 7 days and instead of going to their doctor, go to the ER. But people don't usually think when they start their day that disaster is going to befall them. However, there are certain things that the Lord tells us He doesn't want us caught unaware. He does nothing without warning His servants, the prophets. And so He sends people that other people love to ignore. Oh gosh, it's the man of God coming again. I'm sure he's going to be talking about doom and gloom and what disaster and judgment is about to befall us.
That's a great litmus test, by the way.
Mhm.
Because there are a lot of people like to call themselves prophets today, and
then,
you know what? Every prophet that we read about, well, not read about in here, but you know what I mean.
in Joseph's steno pad.
Yes, in my sacred steno notepad with nothing written on it, I can just imagine and see. Anyway, all the prophets, when people saw them coming, they did not want to hear what they had to say. They did not want to, and the ones that they did not want to hear, a lot of them, they died.
So a prophet is not like your personal fortune teller who tells you that everything is going to be great
and happy and full of joy, and yes, those things come in your life. But if all you hear is the great flowery paradise, that should be a flag. That should be a flag. There's nothing wrong with positive thinking and all that, and positive prayers and prayers with authority. But sometimes we need to hear some things like, "Hey, get your head out of the sand." Hey, Damascus is almost completely in ruins. There's an actual prophecy about that. Hey, um, the Islamic State in all its various factions is saying the West is next. October 7th was a practice run. All right. And let me, not just from prior military experience, but also just much of what we've studied, what we've briefed people in Congress about. And that is when these individuals, when these terrorists say, we are going to do this, they end up doing it. Just a matter of when and where. So I can tell you right now, there's sleeper cells already in the United States, Hamas sleeper cells. You could find this information out at Department of Defense and Homeland Security. So we have to be ready for something like this. And it will shock the sensibilities of America if October 7th happened in this country.
So I would like to expand upon Oxford Dictionary's definition of prepper, because I believe that really there's another type of prepper. We don't just prepare for disasters, we also prepare for good things. For example, if you keep and observe the Shabbat, like the fourth commandment tells us to, then the day before Shabbat is typically your day of preparation. And we find it in scripture, an instruction multiple times to prepare for the day that's coming that we're supposed to rest. So I personally think it would be good to expand the definition of prepper into not just preparing for catastrophic events and disasters, but also just people who are generally speaking prepared for whatever they need to be prepared for. So prepared for something good or prepared for something bad. It's a practice run each Shabbat on the preparation day to be preparing for actually something good.
And that's a day of rest, a day of kicking back, a day when, as we say, or I say, calories don't count, carbs don't count on Shabbat. That's my thing. That's not biblical, okay? So yes, preparation it's not only biblical, it's something that mankind wouldn't have survived without being able to prepare, knowing seasons and times that are coming. And there is preparation for good. In our car, we have a first aid kit. We also have two small, just little bug out bags that have everything that we need. Anything more than 2 knives is excess. Everything that we need to survive, and also to help other people.
Usually.
Case of water, simple things. When you go and you're preparing for your Sabbath or whatever you're doing, go to the grocery store, pick up a few extra cans of beans, pick up a few extra bags of rice. All little things like this.
And that's what we've been encouraging in the past, is just small little things. But we're going to gear it
We're
up.
Go a little
and
bit deep,
amp it
yeah.
up, and we're going to become more intentional. And we're going to help you guys who want to also become more intentional. And we'll talk a little bit about that as things go along. But first of all,
this is one of the most awesome preparations here.
Why prepare? Our example, our creator, is a prepper. In Psalm 23:5, what does he say?
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, and my cup overflows.
So that's like the good type of preparation. The Father is cognizant about good and preparation for bad. Also, Yeshua is a prepper. He, in John 14:3, says, if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you also will be.
So Yeshua is preparing a place for you. The Creator is preparing a table before your enemies, which also has to do with honor and shame. It's where you're being honored, your enemies are being shamed. Preparation is a key.
So it's not just about if you believe something's going to happen and then prepare for it. Listen to what Scripture says about preparation, people who prepare. In Hebrews 11:7, it says, we're going to break this verse down into 2 things that it says about preppers. Number 1, it says that prepping, being prepared, is reverence for God. It's reverence, because it says, by faith, Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen, in reverence prepared an ark. It wasn't necessarily because he saw the signs. It was because he felt like the Lord told him. And he's like, I don't see what he's talking about. Because first of all, it had never rained. Never rained in the history of the earth.
And Asa Base didn't exist at the time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I saw the signs. I opened up my eyes. I saw the signs. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, he didn't have that benefit. There was no rain.
So
So
it must have been like a crazy idea to him to think that water would fall from the sky. I mean, talk about a Chicken Little moment. The sky is falling, the sky. So he just had to, he's like, okay, creator said to build a big boat. I'm going to do it. So, he was just, it was in reverence or fear of the Lord. And so continuing that verse, it says, for the salvation of his household, by which he condemned the world and became an heir of the righteousness which is according to his faith. So because Noah made the ark, he was showing reverence for the Lord, and he became an heir of righteousness.
that's a good. Michael John made a good point. It took him 100 years to build. That's some prepping right there.
That is major.
That's major prepping. With what? And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this. You start prepping, and people are like, "What are you, crazy? What are you doing? What's wrong with you? You think blah 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 blah." Imagine hearing that for 100 years.
That's got to be hard.
Mhm.
So, that I can think of, he was the first prepper. If you know of somebody else who was a prepper before him, put it in the comments because I'm
Yeah,
curious.
that is some massive prepping
Haven't
for
thought about
food
it
for the
before.
animals, all the
Oh
logistics
my
of the
goodness.
ark,
Yeah.
food for the people. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So in Mark 15:42, it also talks about preparedness for the Sabbath, a good preparation.
When evening had come, since it was the day of preparation, that is the day before Shabbat, the day before the Sabbath.
And there's
Which
a
also,
lot that could be said about
yeah,
the preparation for Shabbat in Exodus and the gathering of manna
in the
and
New
the
Testament,
obedience
the
and
double portion blessing that comes with the preparation day. So even there, you have a double blessing on the day that you're preparing. And the double blessing is so it would carry you through the Sabbath. So you wouldn't have to work. You would have a double blessing of everything, double portion.
so there's also the parable that Yeshua told in Matthew 25. You can read that section, but it talks about the preparedness of the wise and the foolish virgins. So here you've got the whole concept of wise or foolish
Hmm.
being based upon preparedness
And timing. We do a whole teaching on it's a completely
We
different
won't go
angle. We
into
won't
it
go
now,
into it on
but
this one, but we do a teaching on that parable and how it is very intricately intertwined with the Moedim, with the appointed times.
now we're going to talk to the layman, to the everyday person, like, those, not those in leadership over your church, but basically all of
Everybody,
us,
we're all, yeah,
everybody.
because we're all servants, right? We're all. It was not. This is in our ministry. It's not your ministry. We're servants to His ministry and building His kingdom, and not man. So we're. This applies to all of us.
So catch what it says in Proverbs 6:6-11.
It says, "Go to the ant, O sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief, officer, or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer, gathers her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? Sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, a little siesta." That was my ad lib. And poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man.
And in Proverbs 20:4, it says, the sluggard does not plow in the autumn. He will seek a harvest and have nothing. So what the Father is showing us in these verses is, if we're not planting a garden, it's lazy. What was it that happened when when mankind was cursed? He was said, work the garden. It doesn't mean unless you have a full-time job. It doesn't mean unless you didn't learn how to do it when you were young. It doesn't say if this, then that. It doesn't say if you live in a city, you don't have to. I don't see anything in Scripture, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, that says that you're an exception to the rule of gardening at all. A man is supposed to work by the sweat of his brow, to work the land. So that was Creator's way, even in our punishment, of causing us to have food security for ourselves.
Yep.
That we weren't going to have to rely on anybody else for our food, and neither would the family, the household. And so when you look to the beauty of the fact that even in our own punishment, the Lord was taking care of us. And now in our modern society, somehow we feel like we're immune to the punishment that was actually a blessing. Because when you get out and work the land, you feel so much better. You're energized. It's healing. It's therapeutic. He knew that even in his punishment, it was going to be good therapy for our soul.
This is something I've mentioned this before, that historically as veterans, and you can study warriors and soldiers from cultures all throughout the world and throughout history. And one of the predominant themes that you find, especially among combat veterans, historically and still today, is this overwhelming desire to work the land, to farm the land. It's like we are built just naturally knowing, biologically knowing that when we put our hands in the dirt, PTSD diminishes, trauma diminishes. There is healing that takes place there. And I'm not attributing the healing to the land, but the Creator has made everything around us, and many of these things He's made with healing attributes.
So how do you prep if you don't have land? There are amazing things that you can do even indoors around your windows. They have little towers now. They have towers that take up very little space that you can put near your windows. And even if you're only working a little bit of land, you are still fulfilling a mitzvah. You're still doing something. You're still learning, and you're still engaging in even the smallest bit. And it can become a really enjoyable thing.
And we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, we're made from the dust of the earth, and to the earth we return.
And having plants around us is healthy for our bodies. It purifies the air. It produces oxygen, and we produce carbon dioxide that it needs.
And they sing, even though you can't hear it.
It's true.
The plants sing.
It's true.
We've heard it.
There's scientific proof out that talks about it. So it's truly fascinating. But to not prepare the land is something that in these verses, Proverbs 6:6, and Proverbs 24 also, but he calls it being a sluggard. So he's calling us lazy if we don't do it. It's not just lazy, also it's disobedient, because he told men to do it. So really, actually, it's all upon the men. But women were the helpers and the rescuers and
the armor bearers, the Isaiahs.
But that's a big deal. A lot of people tell me, my family doesn't want to hear me talk about this because they're scared. And preparedness apparently is scary to some people, but that's not how the Lord is describing it. And I do feel sympathy in my heart for people who have fearfulness about it, but it's time to overcome our fears. There's a time at which, when kids are riding bikes, it's a little scary to take the training wheels off. But does that mean you just never learn to ride a bike? Get over it. Pray yourself through it. Expose yourself little by little until you can conquer that fear. Do whatever you need to do. Warfare in the spirit. Bind up those spirit the spirit of fear, whatever you need to do in order to conquer that. And understand that the more you expose yourself to it and the more you do to prepare, the more you will feel empowered
Hmm.
against fear.
Faith always over fear. Always. Proverbs 27:12. The wise see danger ahead and avoid it, but fools keep going and get into trouble.
So not only does he say that in those other verses that it's lazy to not prepare, but he also says
You're a
it's
fool.
foolish.
It's foolish to not prepare.
Foolish. So
And not only that, but this verse is reiterated twice. In seminary they teach the law first mention, second mention, and this when something's mentioned two times, it's like the creator saying, "Hey, I really want you to pay attention to this. I really want you to see or hear what I'm saying here."
and
So
it's almost exactly the same words.
in Proverbs 22:3, it says, "The cautious person foresees danger and takes precautions, but the fool goes blindly on and suffers the consequences."
Practically the same wording. And so in Proverbs 27:12, the first one there, the word wise, it's not chacham, but it's alum. And it means crafty, shrewd, sensible, prudent, in good sense. So it's people who just have good sense, who are sensible, prudent, cautious. The word fool, but fools keep going and get into trouble. It's interesting because that's plural, petayim. But when you looked back at the wise or prudent one, that was a singular one. So it's showing you the difference between how common it is. It's saying a wise person does this, but all those foolish people
Do
do
that.
that. So it's showing you a difference in the
Mhm.
quantity of how frequent this is. But that petayim, foolish ones, means simple, foolish, or open-minded. That's interesting because we think of open-mindedness as being good.
But we are seeing the results of open-mindedness in the media today. We're seeing the results of open-mindedness with the propaganda and the misinformation that's being put out there, and seeing how people's open minds are just open to have all this stuff vomited into it.
Trash.
Yeah, it's not a renewed mind, right? There's a difference between a renewed mind, having the mind of Mashiach, having the mind of Yeshua, and having the mind of the world, which is an open mind. It's a huge, huge, startling difference. What we're seeing today is ignorance gone to seed, all throughout the news. That's what we're seeing. All right, so
Who was it
please,
that said that? That was
Daphne.
so funny. Ignorance gone
Yeah,
to
she's
seed.
got
That's
all
right.
those good Southern sayings. So that's ignorance gone to seed. So please don't walk in that.
If you wonder where that really cool saying comes from, it has to do with weeds or hay or anything like that. And if you let a weed sit in your garden for long enough, see, before it goes to seed, before it produces seeds, you could just pull that weed out. And as long as you get all the roots, you got it. But if you let it sit there long enough to where it goes to seed, produces seeds, and the seeds fall, you don't just have that one root and that one weed to deal with. You have all of the things that scattered. And that's what we're dealing with in modern generations is ignorance gone to seed. So that is for everyone. But now we're going to talk specifically.
That's a good point. If your mind is open, wouldn't your brain fall out? and yes, Gigi, we're going to talk about Joseph preparing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So to the pastors and the leaders, to the watchmen, to those who see,
to those who have often preached sermons or taught teachings on what it means to have the blood on your hands, right? We hear this before, but we never think about it from a prepping point of view. And the reason
we're going to read that section.
Ezekiel 33, 1-9. Well, as she's pulling it up, we've noticed a trend, and I mean, we don't know. We don't know if people are praying or if people are seeking guidance from Creator Spirit or what have you. But we've noticed a trend of leadership not wanting to address this issue, not wanting to bring it up to their congregations, not wanting to, I mean, just completely just put the brakes on this. This causes fear. We don't want to. It's happening a lot,
It's
and we
something
really
we've
need.
run into significant
Mhm.
amounts.
Very surprised too. Very surprised to find this.
And because many of the pastors agree that it is in we are in end times. There's plenty of prophecy being fulfilled that indicates that timing is really we're in the end times. And I think most non-pastors know that.
Hmm.
Most of us lay people know that. But what we hear, just like Joseph said, being, I don't want to scare the people. Well, first of all, some of the people are already scared. And the fact that their pastor is not talking about what they can do about it can tend to multiply that. And not knowing what to do can also raise our blood pressure. But the other thing is, teaching them to ignore the warning signs is dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous not just for the sheep, but also for the shepherd. And we're going to read that here in Ezekiel 33. We'll take turns reading. It's 9 or 10 verses.
Yep. So Ezekiel 33, the word of Yahweh came to me, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, if I bring the sword upon a land, and the people of the land take a man from among them, and make him their watchman, and if he sees the sword coming upon the land, and blows the trumpet, and warns the people, then if anyone who hears the sound of the trumpet does not take warning, and the sword comes and takes him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. Verse 5.
Okay. He heard the sound of the trumpet and did not take warning. His blood shall be upon himself. Okay, so if he heard the sound, but he didn't take warning, his own fault. But if he had taken warning, he would have saved his life. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet so that the people are not warned, and the sword comes to them and takes any of them, that person is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood I will require at the watchman's hand. In other words, if the watchman knows something's coming and he
And doesn't
doesn't
say it?
warn, that watchman is in big trouble.
So you, son of man, I have made a watchman for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you shall give them warning from me. If I say to the wicked, O wicked one, you shall surely die, and you do not speak to warn the wicked to turn from his way, that wicked person shall die in his iniquity, but his blood I will require at your hand. But if you warn the wicked to turn from his way, and he does not turn from his way, that person will die in his iniquity, but you will have delivered your soul. It's not an easy thing to be a pastor. It's not. We've been there, and you have to have a massive love capacity to
And we
to
commend you.
yeah,
for
we
all you go
absolutely, we
through.
know it's hard, it's difficult.
Been there, done that.
Been there, and it's one of the you learn very quickly that sheep bite.
If
And
and if you love and appreciate your pastor, in the comments, say something nice and send it to them. Write them a thank you card.
yeah,
Encourage them. But how does a watchman compare to a shepherd? Well, what is a shepherd?
when that pastor is sitting there at the pulpit looking out over the congregation, that's a watchman. Hey, that's a watchman in his own little tower right there, watching over everyone. And I mean, there's no better person. And that's what the shepherds would do back in the day. Lions, wolves, whatever would attack the sheep, they were ready. They were watching.
They nurture, they deliver the sheep babies, they protect, and they rescue. I mean, look at what David did. Before
Hmm.
he was king, he was killing lions and bear with his bare hands. I mean, that's some major watchman stuff right
He's
there.
a bad mama drama.
Now, in that, this is interesting. It talks in those verses that we just read. It delineates a difference. It says, if he sees the sword coming in upon the land and blows the trumpet
Mhm.
and warns the people. Okay, so what's the difference? I mean, why did couldn't he have just said if he blows the trumpet? But here is what I believe about that. He blows the trumpet. That means he's announcing there is a problem.
Mhm.
But the phrase that he uses and warns the people, that word to warn, that word take warning is nizha, which comes from zahal, which actually means to admonish, to shine, to teach, to give warning. Okay, so it's not just blowing, hey, there's something bad coming. It's actually taking the spotlight and focusing a light on the area and taking some time to admonish, to say, listen, this is what we haven't been doing, and this is what we need to do, and we need to focus on this and to concentrate on this, to become intentional about it. We need to change how we're doing things so that we have a plan for protection.
And the reason historically why there was a shofar blast and also why there's warning the people is typically the shofar blast was also to warn other communities. You know, a shofar blast today could be as simple as a WhatsApp message or something's happening. And you're like, boom, 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 right? And you're telling the people.
Or 9 times.
Yeah, 9 times. And so that's what was the practicality of what was happening historically with the watchmen is they would blow the shofar, blow the trumpet, the same way they would do to announce a new moon, and there would be stationed watchmen that would then continue that alarm sound. And once you sounded that alarm, then that person would either send runners to warn the people in their immediate community.
And it's like Kathleen is pointing out in the comments that there were different shofar blasts,
Mhm.
and there was one 9 blasts that was specifically talking about war,
Yeah,
and it was an alarm.
and it was like a battering ram sound. 2 Timothy 4:2. That's right. Be prepared in season and out of season.
Very good. That's specifically talking about giving an account of our beliefs, but the concept and principle, I believe, still can hold, even if we, it's a good practice that you see all throughout scriptures being admonished and encouraged, and so we should be prepared,
Mhm.
not just to give our testimony, but also other things. It's wisdom, and it's not foolish. So, so pastors, you know the season that we're in, and you love your sheep, and you know what's even more important than them, uh, more important than their feeling of security is actually being secure. It doesn't matter if they feel secure. It matters if they are secure. And that is your job.
That's what the shepherd does. He protects. I mean, look at what the great shepherd does when his people are getting slaughtered. He comes back fighting with a vengeance, doesn't he? Everybody, we want to put our bunny slippers on Yeshua, but he's returning with a sword coming out of his mouth, and he's killing a lot of people who are come against his bride. And that same pattern of leadership, what would Yeshua do? We're supposed to walk like him and be like him. Then you should be protective over your flocks like him because you're actually taking care of his future bride.
Yeah. And if you have dealt with preparedness and congregational security before, you may know that commonly in our circles, not just ours, but in prepared circles, we talk about the fact that there are sheep, there are shepherds, and there are sheepdogs. And the sheepdogs are the watchmen who are not the shepherds.
Or watchwomen. Mm-hmm.
And actually, I guess the word is watchers, but they're the the ones who see something coming and warn the shepherds, hey, just wanted to draw your attention over here to see there are wolves coming this way. So if you are a watcher, if you're a watchman, if you are a sheepdog, and you know that danger is coming, it may be a good time, when Creator says, for you to approach your pastor, approach your rabbi, approach your congregational leadership, the council of elders, and just tell them, hey, watch this video. Or if you don't think they will, take a few notes and say, let's talk about this. Let's create a plan. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. We don't have a whole lot more to go.
I'm trying to find this really cool verse I found earlier, and I don't know if I put it in there.
How do we prepare then? First, I want to propose that, given what I feel is the lateness of the hour, that we should definitely be taking a biblical and intentional approach to preparedness. And what I mean by that is what one of our listeners brought up a little bit earlier. That's what I call the Joseph model. In Genesis 41, Pharaoh has a dream. In the dream, the interpretation of it comes from a prisoner in his dungeon, and that's Joseph. Joseph interpreted the dream, and it meant that there were 7 years of fat coming, and there immediately after that there were 7 lean years of famine. And the Pharaoh said, "What are we going to do?" And immediately the Lord downloaded a plan to Joseph, and Pharaoh put him in charge. I want to propose to you that sometimes the leadership at your church may not be equipped to know exactly what plan to put in place, and may have a lot on his plate. He may say to you, who comes to him and says, listen, there are lean years ahead, and there needs to be preparation. He may say, I agree, this resonates with me. I want you to help. Don't be shy, and don't think that, well, I'm so busy, I don't have time to do this. Let me tell you, a lot of people's lives may hang in the balance, and whether or not you can prioritize this for the people you love. And you, being a watchman, because you have eyes to see, means that if you don't do this, then you could be responsible for the blood. Maybe your job is to make the alarm and shine the light on it and say, I will help you put a team of somebody else who can be in charge of this, because I can't. People who have more experience than I, or something like that. And that's fine too. But what was the Joseph model? The Joseph model had 7 years of plenty, 7 years of lean, and during the 7 years of plenty, they required a savings of 20%. Now, it's going to be up to you guys, your people, your family, your church, your synagogue, your congregation, about if you think we have 7 years of abundant provision still here. Maybe you think we have 10. Maybe you think we have 2.
We have reason to believe why we believe what we do, but that is a very in-depth, detailed timing, numbers, years, calculations, teaching, which we can do, but it's super, super heavy, deep dive.
And we can abbreviate it by saying that the model that we are following for us, we believe we could have 6 to 10 years of what might be considered in future years to be ample provision.
I mean,
We're not going to define that for you
yeah,
guys.
I mean, you can start. We're willing to share what we have through various research sources, cross references, but it's entirely up to you. What matters is that we're ready. The King is coming, and each
And
of
we
us,
do what we can-
and
what
we
we
and we
can.
do what we can according to what the Holy Spirit is guiding us to do.
I'm sure that the Egyptian population was not happy about a 20% mandated tax, because that's what it was. It was forced. They had to give 20% to the reserves. And that's all of a sudden a big hit from your provision. But that's 20%, which pinched a little bit for 7 years, was the only reason they survived. And so, is 20% too hard for you to save? You may be saying, well, I can barely make ends meet as it is. Like between 60 and 70% live paycheck to paycheck. We get it. But the question is that if you're living at your current lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
are you willing to feel uncomfortable for a while so that you and your family can survive? And that takes some real commitment, that what is most important to you is the security and survival of your family, even over the comfort and entertainment of your family.
And if this is something you want to start digging into, a good place to start is there's no America in end times prophecies in the Bible. America will not be America. We're already seeing that now. A lot of us are seeing an America that none of us grew up in. We don't recognize it. Even just in the past 10 years, again, it's just a downward spiral. And you're not going to find the United States in end time revelation. We can get into that too later on. But we know that there's people, because when Creator calls and he whistles for his people, they come from the four directions. He's going to whistle to the four directions. So there's people still going to be in this land. Is how do we sustain? How do we survive? Yeshua said, you will go through tribulation. You will go through troubles. Some people think, hey, I'm getting a ticket out of here. Whatever you want to believe, pan-trib, pre-trib, post-trib. We say we believe pan-trib, that it's all going to pan out in the end, but you still have to be ready.
So one thing, we saw them prepare with provision in the Joseph model.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we didn't really see was them prepare with skill and knowledge. And I put forth to you that that's because it was already part of basic human survival.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of every kid knew how to build a fire by the time he was probably 8, maybe much earlier.
They knew how to get water from the desert. They knew how to survive.
They knew
just like our grandparents.
That our grandparents knew.
Your grandpa would bring in 9 deer, 80-something years old.
Incredible.
And feed the entire family.
I watched him make fire the old way, my grandfather, and I watched him. I was like, wow, Grandpa, that's cool. But did I go
it
and
took
say,
how long before you learned it?
To know how to do that.
How many years? How long did it take before you learned? Decades later was when you learned.
And it took me 3 months. No, I'm sorry. 5 weeks of hard practice
And
to make it from a bow drill that I made.
Yeah, and with our people, there's a prophecy that comes with not knowing how to make the fire the old way anymore. So it's even more so compounded on us as indigenous people to know how to make fire the old way.
Think about this, you guys. How many generations, how many thousands of years have humans been in existence? How many generations? Every generation would know how to do basic life skills,
mm-hmm.
basic survival skills, things that everybody knew. There are people now who don't even know how to boil eggs, much less raise chickens.
She's not kidding. I'm laughing because we actually heard somebody say that too.
And I'm concerned about humankind. because here we've got 2 generations of survival skills that have been lost. And that's all you need to lose a language.
Hmm.
You need to skip 1 generation.
And we hear people say, when things go bad, we're going to the RiverWinds. No, you're not.
No, we all need
We all need
build
to have our own
community.
setup. Yeah.
We all need to build community.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to help you do, is to build your knowledge bank, to mentor you in preparedness,
And skills
to
to
help
be
you,
resilient and strong
to
and
empower you,
persevere. Yeah.
to empower you. So one of our board members said just recently, I said, I love it. We're going to empower you to be resilient. So when we talk about the skills, we have to revive these skills. It's like that dying ember where there's just barely enough. And if we blow on it quickly while the grandfather generation is still alive, then we can revive those skills so that we can have them just in time to bring us into end times. Isn't it just like the enemy, that just when we need them the most,
That's
that
when
suddenly those skills are gone? We're not being taught them in school. Joseph and I have 7 college degrees between us.
and not including military training, extracurricular training,
And we
certifications,
had to go back to schools to get certificate trainings to teach us how to do the most important skills in human existence, survival skills. And so the question is, how precarious is civilization right now if the house of cards were to crumble? And so I'm not trying to instill fear in you. I'm trying to give you a big picture view of the chessboard, or as L.A. Marzulli puts it, the cosmic chessboard, where the enemy of our souls and our creator are moving things around and preparing for an epic battle that I believe is already at the beginnings.
In 1 Peter 1:13, it says, therefore, prepare your minds for action.
And that's
Prepare
our
your
next
minds
point.
for action. Being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Yeshua. This is a verse that talks about what will come, right? What will be given to you. You will be given that grace to go through some of these difficult times and through some of these hardships. I can tell you, when I did the 7-day scout week with just the 2 knives put out in the wilderness by myself, we were worried about my blood sugar. I was like, you know what? I need to know
Joseph
end time
was
scenario.
diabetic.
I was like, I need to know end time scenario. Yeah, it's the number 1 killer of Native people. I'm 10 years beyond the average life expectancy of a Native man, which is 40, and 50 for a woman is the average life expectancy. So heart disease because of diabetes, number 1 killer. So I'm like, oh my gosh, 7 days, I'm going to be out there and no carbs, no sugar. What's going to no food
except
for what
he
I
could
catch or
find.
gather, forage, and I was like, well, I'm going to find out now, real quick, what it's going to be like in an apocalyptic situation, and I have nothing to maintain or treat myself.
As a doctor, that was a little nerve-wracking for me,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that my husband, who's diabetic, was going to have no food.
And she couldn't help me during the Scout Week challenge, and we couldn't help each other. But I was given grace during that time, and because I cannot explain to you how I didn't crash, I didn't burn, my sugar didn't go crazy.
A few blackberries.
I was eating blackberries, and I think I caught 2 fish.
There's not enough blackberries to sustain.
Yeah.
Like, I truly believe there was miraculous intervention, and I do believe that will happen again.
I believe that as well.
From heaven.
And one of the reasons I believe that is in Acts, right? When you read in the book of Acts, this is a period of time when the ecclesia, when the called out assembly, was being persecuted the most. And in that height of persecution, it was almost like Creator was like, okay, as you're getting persecuted, I'm pouring out even more of my power through you. So we see all these incredible acts of miracles, power, displays of power, signs and wonders during this time. And I believe that that'll happen again as the persecution hits the body. We're going to see and hear supernatural stories,
But
but that's not everybody.
that doesn't mean that provision is going to happen all the time.
Hmm.
There were times, for example, that they were hungry. They were so hungry they started rioting. And so having skills can get us into a place where perhaps we don't end up with riots on our hands in our family.
And you could be any age to start learning, at any age. There's no too late. There's no too late at all. So
So
preparing,
he brought up being prepared for action.
yep,
And another way to put that is also be prepared for war.
yep. And I do want to mention one more thing on that First Peter verse where it says, "Prepare your mind for action." One of the things that, and we teach this in survival classes, is you have to go through your what ifs. Go through what if scenarios. That's preparing your mind for action. What if? I mean, just today we played a game called Conflicted. It's a super mega Monopoly game. It's made by veterans. It's a post-apocalyptic game, and sometimes you get these scenario cards. Some of them very highly likely. You and your best friend are out walking. There's a negligent discharge. You put a bullet through your best friend's head. You have to come back. What do you do? Do you tell the people? Do you say there's an ambush? Another one. Just all these scenarios. Go through the what ifs. That's preparing your mind for action, for what you're going to do, and already having that thought in mind. Then you're not taken by surprise.
So it was only a couple of generations ago that World War II occurred. And Israel is at war right now. It's important to notice that when war happens in Israel, it's not usually too much longer after that war can break out here.
Yeah, and I think that's a very key thing that you just said, and that's war breaking out here because
Or
technically,
involving America.
yeah, technically, and the last count that I checked this morning, our U.S. forces have been attacked over 100 times throughout various places in the Middle East, and we're attacking. We're attacking back. We're defending. By all, we're in a war. We're in this Middle East war. We have U.S. troops that are being injured in battle.
And you guys, by multiple countries.
Yeah.
Multiple countries are fighting the U.S. It's like
Just because Congress hasn't declared that we're there. When U.S. soldiers are being wounded and killed, well, I don't know about any killed, but I know we would definitely have U.S. soldiers that are being wounded in combat and in battle. We were at war. When we have Houthi rebels shooting at our navy and our navy shoots back, we're at war. When Iranian embassies and U.S. bases are being targeted by terrorists and being attacked, and people are defending American citizens, we're at war.
These are happening now.
It's a proxy war. We're in a proxy war.
I don't even know if
I don't even proxy anymore.
Describe it. I think
at first it was.
We're in war. It's just not been called war.
That verse that talks about nations will fight against nations, or nations will go to war. Nations war against each other. That word in the Greek in the New Testament is ethnos. So it's literally ethnicities are going to fight against ethnicities. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen in the Middle East. You have Arabs fighting against Jews, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get absolutely worse. So prepare for war, but not out of fear. And here's what's going to happen. As you prepare, the fear will dwindle. It will go away. Any type of inkling of fear will be replaced with a foundational faith and also self-confidence.
So how do you prepare for war? You prepare mentally, you prepare
physically
with your provisions, and you prepare physically. If you want to know how serious Joseph and I are and how we are putting our words into practice in our family, in our lives, in the last 5 months, there have been, other than Shabbat, there have been few days that we did not either exercise a minimum of 4 miles or 2 hours a day.
Mhm.
So if you think that we are talking about things that we're not doing, or if you think we're in any way not extremely serious about this, we want you to understand that we are devoting enormous amounts of effort to putting this into practice.
There's a verse I was looking for, and I thought I had written it down, but it's a preparation verse, and it's talking about the men specifically, and I'll have to find it. It's in here somewhere. But what really got me about it is one of the things it says for us to be is strong. We are to be strong.
It says that
You
in Proverbs 31 about the woman too.
Yeah, that too.
She
And
garners her
Proverbs
strength.
31 is not just the exceptional woman. And she's Kail that's a warrior term. It's a woman of valor.
A woman
It's
of
a woman of a
war.
force to be reckoned with is what the Proverbs 31. That's a whole other teaching that we do too. But
I'm just going to give you a peek too about how serious we are about this.
So we
That's
got
our home gym.
our home gym. Of course, we have land and everything out here, but
It's not really,
um,
it's not how I like to decorate my house, but we mean business.
yeah, and if you can't get a gym, cinder blocks, dumbbells. I mean, start doing something. I mean, I've working on getting my blood sugar under control naturally. The working out, I've lost almost 30 pounds. Getting stronger. Just do it. We need to be strong. To the guys who are watching this, the men and the women, your heads of your households. My goal is to be the strongest person in my family. That should be your goal
I
too.
think you already are.
Then I need to maintain. I don't know.
I don't think
Maybe
I'm
strong
stronger than
smelling.
you.
You're strong in many ways.
No. So Joel 3:9 says, proclaim this among the nations, prepare a war, rouse the mighty army,
The Gibborim.
let all the soldiers draw near, let them come up. In Ezekiel 38:7,
Be ready and keep ready, you and all your hosts, that's military units, that are assembled about you, and be a guard for them.
we're also supposed to prepare for exile.
Yep. Ezekiel says in Ezekiel 12:3, therefore, son of man, prepare for yourself baggage for exile and go into exile by day in the night, or by day in their sight. Even go into exile from your place to another place in their sight. Perhaps they will understand, though they are a rebellious house.
That's the bug out bag, you guys.
Yep. The baggage is the bug out bag.
Get your bug out bags together. And like I said, it may be that we're talking about something that happens 10 years from now. But do you understand that these preparations are, unless, even if you have enormous amounts of funds that you can devote to them, the knowledge that is required and the training that you need takes time. And so what I'm
And
saying,
practice.
I'm not saying, oh my goodness, be worried. Tomorrow, some catastrophe is going to occur. But even if you believe that you will be raptured out of here before the tribulation, it still says in Revelation that there will be the groanings of the earth. There will be natural disasters.
Earthquakes.
There will be wars. There will be these things that occur and are already occurring. So we have had such a comparatively easy time in the United States to some of the rest of the world that we almost feel this bubble of immunity. And I just want, I don't think I even need to tell most of you out there that because of the way things are going in this country, because of some of the statements and the difficulties and the problems, the sin, stuff that's happened here, we are ripe for punishment soon. So sometimes when the prophets were talking and warning about things in scripture, they weren't talking about stuff that happened in 3 months. It's a big warning. People need time. Sometimes they're given time. And I think we have several years, but I think we should prepare as if we didn't, because we don't know. Things are heating up. And I think we all know China doesn't have enough women. They got to get women somewhere. How long do you think an entire generation of men will be content alone? Just a question. So we, the RiverWinds, as for us, as watchmen, we are going to be very clear, because Scripture, 1 Corinthians 14:8 says, "For if the bugle or the trumpet produces an indistinct sound, who will prepare himself for battle?" So let us, right now, we are producing a very distinct sound.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready. We've been telling everybody since 2018, when the Lord completely shifted the focus of our organization, that the Lord said, hard times are coming. Prepare my people for hard times. My people are not ready for what's coming.
Not ready.
Prepare my people for hard times.
We gave
next year,
we gave this same message in Jerusalem a few months ago.
The next year, COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have this. So definitely people have not been ready for either one of those. And we are telling you now, more things are coming. We don't want you to be afraid. I don't have fear. And the Lord can remove fear from you also.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for courage. Pray for fearlessness.
And
There's a reason.
strength.
There's a reason you were born now for such a time as this. You're going to be an amazing pillar of strength for your family. You are going to be someone who has prepared more than the people around you. You're going to be the one who has what you need, because we are going to stand with you and
nurture, teach, educate, empower you.
We are next year.
It's the native way. We did it with the Pilgrims.
So
we're going to do it now.
Maybe some people may be watching this when it is 2024. So let me just tell you, we are rolling out a preparedness mentoring program.
Mm-hmm. For this coming year, we've got several really exciting things that we'll talk about at a different live stream, but we'll be offering classes, events, training sessions. We can come to your congregation. We're working our itinerary right now on several places in California, Arkansas, Oklahoma, where we'll come and teach a congregational security class, a hidden garden class, how to prepare, how to put hands-on skills to work.
We are going to be going to Israel to teach some very vital classes for the people and what they're going through right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've received let's just say open doors to go and do some training. We have some incredible instructors that are coming with us to teach some very crucial skills there. So please keep us in prayer about that. If that's something that you'd like to help fund, we will be doing a fundraiser for that. Our goal is to be able to pay for the entire team to go for 2 weeks and train Israeli civilians
how to not be
taken, how to get out of handcuffs, urban survival, how to escape.
These are some of the things we learned in our training.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Lord told us in 2018, my people are not prepared for what's coming, prepare my people for hard times, we were like, that's not what I went to college for. But, I've heard it many times. The Lord does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've been doing, out breaking bones and all this stuff.
Learning survival skills and all these cool things. Sault Ste. Marie, being that you're Anishinaabe, the prophecy of the seven fires prophecy, which is the symbol is a menorah, that's a really powerful thing, but it's a 7-branch candlestick, the Ojibwe prophecy. If you don't know about that, check it out. Because the Ojibwe prophecies, the 7 fire prophecies, I think we're like on the 6th fire right now. So even in the native prophecies of the Anishinaabe people, we're really close to like the final fire. So definitely something to look at. I'm going to put a link here in the chat box. It's the end of the year. So, please give to what we're doing. Yes, we're always ready to save souls, but our mission is to help people so that we can save lives.
Let's clarify that,
Yeah.
because there may be.
Oh, well, yeah, I
Let's
see what you're saying.
clarify. We, the Lord has put us in position to help people who are His people by covenant, the Jewish people,
And
and
we have a very diplomatic relationship with them.
and
Yeah.
we want to keep it that way, which means
We don't
our
proselytize when
job
we're in Israel.
is to save lives with Israel. We're not there to force any beliefs down their throat. We want to help
2
them.
crusades, inquisitions, they've been there, done that.
And there are other people out there who that's their job. But for us,
Creator made it clear
they need
to
to
teach
live.
his people. Yeah.
They need to be protected. They need people who just love them and help them through things.
And also to prepare the bride.
And
Yep.
yes. So we are excited about 2024. And I just want to leave you. Well, we're going to have a lot of content coming out by multiple wonderful content writers. And
For our
some of us too,
blogs.
for blogs.
Yeah.
And so make sure you're subscribed, that you've got the app downloaded from FireKeepers International, that you are opening up, making sure that our newsletters are not getting to your spam folders and promotion folders.
We won't bombard your inbox with stuff. We do like a newsletter at least once a quarter.
No, we're trying to.
I try to do one at least once a month. Yeah, we try to do once a month. But we won't let 3 months go by without giving you some sort of update, unless we're doing something that's, secret squirrel.
But we'll be putting out content
more
probably
frequently
on a weekly basis.
Yeah, everything from herbal medicine,
On
natural
our
medicine,
website.
survival tips, things to buy, what not to buy. Y'all don't just go out there and start buying all sorts of stuff. Don't go to Walmart for survival gear. We can help you with this.
One of the things that we learned in survival school was that you can waste enormous amounts of money on stuff that does not work.
Yeah.
And that there's nothing worse than thinking that you're completely prepared and having your equipment break the first time you use it.
Yeah.
So that's why you need mentorship in preparedness. We had people to help us through it, and we want to be there to help you through it.
I just went through the memory of people helping us through it. That's crap. That's crap. Throw that away.
Trash.
That's trash.
Gonna break.
That's not.
You do
get your money back on that.
May well burn it. And we're like,
how much money did we
but
spend?
the reviews. So we want to help you guys not just feel prepared, but to feel empowered. At peace, to be empowered,
to feel resilient,
and to just be free to enjoy the fact that you were created for an exciting time. And that means there's something special about you, and that the Lord will refine you and build you up into this amazing person. I mean, look at me, you guys. I'm not Wonder Woman.
You're my Wonder Woman.
Oh, but I don't fear about these things. The enemy's tried to kill me so many times. I'm not gonna die till it's my time.
Just remember, you can do what? All things
through Messiah,
who gives you power, strength, dunamos. That word dunamos there is dynamite, explosive, earth-shattering power. When you realize that that's what you are capable of, watch out.
So, you guys, I hope that this blessed you. Send us an encouraging word. We'd love to hear from you. We're trying to build community. We want to remember your names. It may take a lot of times of communicating with us and making notes and sending us stuff before we get to respond back, but we want to hear from you. And Father, we just want to lift you up and thank you. Yahweh, we bless you.
Yes.
Thank you for every person who will ever watch this. We ask you that you will deliver them from fear, that you will instill them with courage
and empower them with
power,
faith.
that they will have knowledge and discernment, wisdom, counsel. We thank you and bless you for this time.
Baba turetoka hahom barino Baba Kenny. Thank you, Creator, for this extended family that you've given us for all of us, and we just thank you for your time, and we thank you, Creator, for what you're doing in the times that we're living in.
And just a last note before we go, thank you guys for all of you who are helping support us. We are praying for increased monthly donors during 2024 just to help us meet our budget. And also, if you want to help, send training to people in Israel. Send a group of us to Israel to train the civilians. This is mostly for the civilians who don't have training, to help them avoid what happened on October 7th. Then please go to FireKeepersInternational.org, click on donate.
Yeah, and just put something in the notes. We'll actually probably create an envelope at one point for that specific purpose and for that specific goal.
You can give to the general and put a comment.
Yeah, some of the we'll tell you more about that as time goes on. But it's a very, very mission critical. We also want to bring supplies, much needed supplies, to some of our friends who are serving in the military there, and also to some of the civilians. And there's a whole lot that's going to take place, and you can be a part of it. And so we just thank you for your prayers, your support.
Somebody's asking, did we say we have an app? FireKeepersInternational.org does have an app.
Yeah, it's a Wix app, but
we're getting old.
But that's interesting that you said that, because we weren't even planning on telling anybody that. Okay,
we have.
It's a sign.
We have some really exciting news, but we do need a little bit of help with it. We have the opportunity to purchase and then expand upon an app that is an amazing preparedness.
It's already been coded. It's been made. It's been out on the market for several years.
But there are
Laurelyn, I gotta give a little bit of backstory. Laurelyn, in just a little crazy spurt that she had,
like 3 in the morning.
We both downloaded this app before. It's a really good survival prepping app, and she's like, I'm just gonna ask the guy if he'll sell it to us for $500. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, why not? Let's just ask him.
I said, who knows how much we're going to have to put into it to get it to do the functions that
you want it to do. Yeah.
Make your life so much easier, but it's a really good start. And so we need a coder who knows how to develop apps.
If you know somebody who's a coding engineer for customizing apps, like we said, the app's already done. It's built. You can download it on iPhone, or you can download it on Galaxy. But
we're not going to tell you what it is yet. It's a secret.
Yeah.
But
But you'll be able to go to the store. You can go to your inventory. You can scan stuff, and it'll pull things in. I mean, it's
going to help you take what would have to be intentional and very planned and complicated, and it can turn it into something where it's going to make your life easy, and you don't really have to even think about it. You'll be able to plug in some parameters, guidelines, and it will seamlessly help you integrate preparedness into your life.
Yep.
So
we won't tell you anymore.
If you know of app coders and developers who might be able to help us with this,
that would be awesome.
We are looking for people who will either do it as part of schooling or
Tax write-off for labor,
tax
volunteer.
write-off,
Yeah.
or if there's somebody out there that's like, oh, God, I've got money I can donate and knock that out,
We don't know how much that would cost.
and
But,
that'll be fine. It depends on several factors, but
well, thank
I'm really
you,
excited
everybody.
about
Yes,
that,
thank
and
you
I think
for
you guys will love it.
being here. And
Pumpkin.
she's like, it's done. Show's over. Turn it off.
She's like, okay, now for love. Lovin's. All right, you guys, thank you.
Ahom, Seneko Kakona. Many blessings to you all. Remember, put the link in there for FireKeepersInternational.org and also RiverWinds.com. Sign up for our newsletters, and we'll see you next time.